Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. The federal government has just imposed arbitration to end railway lockout. That's following a historic shutdown. We tell you what it means for our region, plus reaction from neighbors after one person died in a Windsor house fire early this morning. And a historic church in Essex is closing down on its 150th anniversary. The country's two biggest rail companies were shut down today. Canadian National Railway and Canadian Pacific Kansas City locked out more than 9,000 workers at midnight after negotiations broke off. Rail workers were striking across the country, including here in Windsor. But just an hour ago, the federal labor minister stepped in to get trains moving again, saying both sides must go to binding arbitration. Jennifer LaGrassa has been following this story all day and joins me live. Jen, what does this mean for the workers?
Yeah, so it means that they're going to be heading back to work soon. As of midnight today, workers with CN and CPKC Rail were locked out of their jobs because their companies and union Teamsters Rail hadn't reached an agreement. A locomotive engineer for CPKC who had been out picketing spoke with CBC News earlier today, and I just checked in on him just after this latest update that we got. He really hopes his company takes their safety concerns seriously. He said that often he and his colleagues work day and midnight shifts in the same week, which isn't good for their well-being. He says the workplace culture is toxic and that they constantly worry about losing their jobs. Now, with this going to binding arbitration, he says they have packed up their picket line for the night. He doesn't see this as a good thing for workers in the long term and isn't so sure that they will see many changes. This is good news, though, for some companies in the area who were concerned about what a prolonged rail shutdown would mean for them. I had spoken with Dainty Foods, which has a rice mill in Windsor. Some relief tonight for them. They were worried that if this continued, they'd be running out of product and they'd have to shut down their plant. They did already incur some costs today, having to use trucking in place of rail. It's unclear when railway operations will start up again, but the Labour Minister has ordered them to do so as quickly as possible.
Well, thanks so much for that, Jen. That's a CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa reporting live. A house fire in Windsor has left one person dead and two others seriously injured. Firefighters arrived at the home on Bruce Avenue around 5 o'clock this morning. According to Windsor, fire crews did a search of the premises and found 3 bodies. The Office of the Fire Marshal is now probing what caused the fire. It says the investigation could take 2 or 3 days. Windsor police have carried out a major sweep of the Glengarry neighborhood, resulting in 24 arrests. The 2-day operation occurred yesterday and Tuesday in the downtown neighborhood. Windsor police officers partnered with the Windsor-Essex Community Housing Corporation in what they call a high-visibility operation to support community safety at apartment buildings on Glengarry Avenue. In addition to the 24 arrests, 48 charges were laid, including assault and arson. Police say the initiative was launched in response to concerns from residents of Glengarry and the Windsor-Essex Community Housing Corporation. An individual who prefers the pronouns they, them has been acquitted of sexual assault charges related to an incident at a Windsor women's emergency shelter. 34-year-old Cody D'Entremont, identified as Desiree Anderson at the time of the complaint. D'Entremont was staying at the Welcome Center shelter for women and families on the night of March 26, 2023. The complainant was a woman in her 30s who was being accommodated in the same room as D'Entremont at the shelter. According to the complainant, the two were lying in bed watching movies when D'Entremont allegedly began groping her, eventually forcing her to have intercourse. The trial was decided by Judge Alone, who said in her verdict that she has significant concerns about the reliability of the evidence of the complainant. At no time during the trial was D'Entremont's gender discussed. They remain in custody on other charges. An investigation into why the deputy chief of police wasn't initially charged with stunt driving when he was pulled over in January of last year has just concluded. The Ontario Civilian Police Commission said everyone involved acted in good faith in their understanding of the law. However, the police oversight body did say there were several misunderstandings about what's discretionary and what's mandatory when someone is pulled over for stunt driving. In the early morning hours of January 7th, 2023, Jason Crowley was pulled over for traveling 111 kilometers in a 70-kilometer-an-hour zone. Crowley's license was not surrendered and his vehicle was not impounded despite the apparent clear wording of the law, according to the OCPC. In May 2023, Crowley pleaded guilty to speeding and received a fine of $352. It hasn't been made public if Crowley will face any internal discipline for his actions. The OCPC is recommending additional training for Windsor police. Well, the days are numbered for historic church in Essex. The Essex United Church will be closing this October, ironically on its 150th anniversary. The CBC's Dale Molnar, who went to the church as a teen, has much more on why the church is closing and what's next.
The first service happened in 1874 in a wagon shop located downtown in Essex.
Brian Sweetman has been going to the Essex United Church all his life and wrote a history of the church for its 100th anniversary. He says the first church was built in 1876 on the site of the current post office downtown. It was Grace Methodist Church back then because the amalgamation which formed the United Church of Canada hadn't happened yet.
Well, there was a major explosion here in 1907. The church was heavily damaged. It wasn't destroyed, but was heavily damaged. The congregation was still expanding, and they thought they needed to build a new building. So they moved over across the street here to where Naylor's grist mill was.
Within 1 year, they had this church built and opened in 1 year.
Jim Hatt was pastor here from 2014 to 2019. He says it's sad that the church is closing after 150 years.
We have contributed a lot to the community here over the 150 years that we have been in existence here.
But the congregation has dwindled to only about 20 members who are also aging. The part-time pastor says they never recovered from the pandemic.
COVID's been a big thing for a lot of our local churches. People got out of the habit of going, and we're all kind of in recovery.
He also says younger people are keeping in touch as a community with social media and don't have time for church. This is the church I went to when I was younger. It hasn't changed much, but the paint is peeling from the ceiling, and it would cost about $100,000 to fix, money the church doesn't have. Woods says the regional church council that oversees the property has plans for the building, but those haven't been revealed. But Woods would like to see something done with it.
It's a resource to the community. There are groups that meet here. We're hoping that will continue.
For now, a video on the history of the church is being produced, and the town is going through the process of giving the church an historic designation. That designation would protect it from being torn down. The church will hold a special service on Saturday, October the 19th at 1 o'clock to invite the entire community. And then the final service will be held here on Sunday, October the 20th. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Essex.
The Tecumseh Corn Festival is on this weekend. It's been a tradition since the 1970s, but this year they're changing up the event's traditional location. Regardless, organizers are expecting a solid turnout despite limited parking. The CBC's Dawson Chen reports.
Want fun, food, music, and a chance to meet Nibby the corn cob? There will be plenty of that at this year's Tecumseh Corn Fest, even if getting there is less convenient than before. Lacasse Park is being occupied by Baseball Canada's Men's National Championship, resulting in the Cornfest being moved 5 kilometers away to McAuliffe Park, south of the Expressway. The event's organizers, the Optimist Club of St. Clair Beach, are being frank that the new location has limited parking.
So it's tight. Some of the challenges that we're facing come down to parking availability around the park. The park, I don't think, was necessarily set up to host large events quite like these.
That's why the Optimist Club is encouraging the public to park at Tecumseh Arena or Tecumseh Vista Academy, where a free shuttle bus will be traveling on a 20-minute loop to take attendees to the festival grounds. Once you're at McAuliffe Park, it's all the usual beloved Cornfest fare, music tents with a country pop night, an outdoor market of craft and food vendors, carnival games and rides, corn eating contests, and of course, Nibby.
Nibby went missing last year, but we found Nibby. We have a fully functioning Nibby, and he will be out at Cornfest this year.
Coolbeck estimates total attendance of last year's Cornfest was more than 15,000 people. Meanwhile, organizers of the tournament at Lacasse Park are encouraging fans of baseball action to come cheer for the Tecumseh Thunder against 9 other teams from all over the country.
And listen, you're going to see the best amateur baseball from across Canada this weekend. So they're going to be great teams. They've had lots of time to recruit the best players.
The $3.4 million renovations of Lacasse Park's baseball facilities were unveiled earlier this month. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
Riley Lachuk is here tonight with our weather forecast. We're inching closer to that weekend. Riley, what do we have to look forward to?
Thanks, Meg. Nice summer, pleasant day out there is, I think, how I'm going to categorize it. Nice and sunny, not a lot of cloud cover out there, and really region-wide, we're not looking at a lot of cloud cover either. Just a little bit through the Ottawa Valley, but here in southwestern Ontario, we've been under mainly sunny skies today, and temperatures a lot closer to seasonal than we have been in the last couple of days. Looking at some of our daytime highs from today, back up to something that is certainly more normal for this time of the year. So mid-20s across southern Ontario, into southwestern Ontario, temperatures 22 to 24 degrees throughout the afternoon today. Normally we should be about 25, 26 degrees, but that will come, especially as we get into the weekend. We're looking at temperatures really warming up and the humidity really coming back as we get into the weekend. So looking at what's ahead, we stay in this dry pattern as we head through the overnight period tonight into Friday. Not a lot to talk about. Friday is a mainly sunny day as well. A little bit of cloud here and there, but by and large, I'm calling it a mainly sunny day tomorrow. Even into Saturday, mainly sunny skies as well. Not a lot of weather to talk about really region-wide, in particular in southwestern Ontario either. But as I mentioned, it's the heat and the humidity that is really going to get us, especially as we get into that Saturday-Sunday time frame. So the winds tomorrow, not much of a factor either. Could see some gusts 20, 30 kilometers an hour, especially around Sarnia and London. But otherwise, we're looking at pretty calm winds tomorrow. I thought I'd pull out the muggy meter tonight just to show you that rise in humidity as we get into the weekend and into next week. So tomorrow, pretty pleasant. Saturday, pretty pleasant day as well. But look what happens into Sunday. Those dew point temperatures into that 20 to 24 range. And even by Tuesday, could be unbearable in terms of humidity. Of course, the higher your dew point reading is, the closer it is to that temperature, that actual temperature, the hotter and the muggier it's going to feel. So we're in for some very warm humidex values as we start next week. So tonight's temperatures, 11 to 14 degrees, back up into the mid-20s tomorrow, and that's kind of what we get as we get into the next few days as well. Meg, we're looking at 28s and 29s for the weekend and feeling into the high 30s as we start next week.
Thanks so much for that, Riley. CBC Windsor just wants to thank everyone who came out to our listening session in Sandwich Town last night. It was an awesome chance to better understand some of the issues in the area while also getting to hear the positives. The information gathered will pave way for a series of stories we'll roll out later this fall. And if you weren't able to make it to the listening session, we still want to hear from you. There's a short survey on our website. That's at cbc.ca/Windsor. Well, another gorgeous evening, and it might be one of the last to sleep with your windows open for the next little while because it's about to get hot. We have more news coming up after the break.
There's still time to turn your summer plans into the plans of the summer. Get a small flavored cold brew, smoothie, or frappe for just $3 plus tax. Only during summer drink days at McDonald's.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Your calling. Some people find theirs at an early age, others later in life. No matter when you find it, consider yourself lucky because it becomes your everything. Our calling was to build trucks. It's why we're ranked the #1 brand in new vehicle quality by J.D. Power. We put our everything into every truck so that when you find your calling, nothing can stop you from answering. Ram, the most awarded truck brand for the last 5 years.
Don't have a sandwich? Get a sandwich. Get a sandwich. Get a sandwich. Everyone have a sandwich.
Yes way!
Celebrate National Sandwich Month with $2 off any foot-long sub.
The next Lotto 649 Gold Ball jackpot is a massive $48 million. Imagine the possibilities. Plus the classic $5 million jackpot. 2 chances to find your possible.
It's about time. Who you spend it with, what you spend it doing. Time is luxury, which is why we spend so much time designing and refining, creating the control and the feel that defines a new form of electric performance to make the time you spend behind the wheel of a Polestar the best time of your day. Book your time with Polestar 3 at polestar.com.
The Don't Pay a Cent event is back at Leon's. Pay no money down with no monthly payments and 0% interest until 2026. Plus, save 50% on select furniture and mattresses. On now.
Life of Pi, the extraordinary and unmissable theatrical event, embarks on its biggest adventure yet as it makes its Canadian premiere in Toronto. Winner of 5 Olivier Awards and 3 Tony Awards, Life of Pi is a theatrical triumph that will make you believe in theater. Life of Pi, September 3rd to October 6th at the CAA Ed Mervish Theater. Book now at mervish.com.
An Enercare expert can find ways to make any home run smoothly. From heating and cooling, to home comfort solutions like water heating and water purification. Our technicians can help with affordable solutions to keep your home comfortable and problem-free. And with 65 years of helping Ontarians, we'll always be here when you need us.
Enercare, experts at home.
There could be more trouble on the transportation front. Air Canada pilots have voted to authorize a strike. About 98% of the members who cast a ballot have approved a walkout if necessary to win a new contract with Air Canada. The 5,000 members of the Airline Pilots Association have been pushing for greater wage parity with their American counterparts. Air Canada pilots could be in a legal strike position as early as September 17th. The U.S. Democratic Party's national convention wraps up in Chicago tonight. American Vice President Kamala Harris will accept her nomination as the party's candidate for President of the United States. CBC's Katie Simpson is on the convention floor with a look ahead to tonight's keynote event.
Everything that's been happening inside this arena over the past week has been building to this moment. Kamala Harris is going to walk out onto that stage and formally accept the Democratic nomination to be the party's presidential nominee. She'll also deliver what will likely be one of the most important speeches of her political career. The vibe, the atmosphere, it's expected to be rock and roll. There's going to be celebrities, there's going to be musical guests. They want to spread a sense of joy and excitement that so many Democrats that you talk to here on the floor and in and around the convention site, that's what they say this 4-day sort of love-in has really been about. Now, Kamala Harris's running mate, Tim Walz, had his first opportunity to introduce himself to Americans last night, trying to keep that vibe going, introducing himself as America's friendly neighbor.
It's the honor of my life to accept your nomination for Vice President of the United States.
The big challenge for Democrats going forward after this convention wraps up is trying to find a way to keep the momentum going. One thing to remember about political conventions, this is a space filled with people that are very much like-minded. They're very excited and enthusiastic. But once this is over, trying to take that enthusiasm and turn it into momentum, trying to get out the vote, trying to appeal to voters beyond the Democratic base, that is going to be a challenge in an election that is expected to be incredibly close. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Chicago.
A war in Sudan has led to the world's largest hunger crisis, and now there's a new cholera epidemic. Sudan has recorded almost 600 cholera infections and 28 deaths since late July. The war is straining the country's health sector, with heavy rains and flooding compounding the situation. International organizations are helping the Sudanese spray chlorine and open treatment centers. The health minister says last year there were 12,000 cholera cases and more than 350 deaths. Libraries have a lot to offer: a quiet place to read, community programming, and a place to take refuge. But data obtained by CBC News shows they're increasingly becoming violent places. Staff say they're dealing with threats, assaults, and suspected drug overdoses. Anya Zolejowski has the story.
A man waves a knife. Police move in. Video captured in a Toronto public library. Hostile incidents are happening in Canada's libraries more often than you might think. Surprising, perhaps, for some, but par for the course for many.
I've seen books thrown at staff. I've had to call the police for people bringing knives, fighting among each other.
The librarian spoke to us confidentially, worried about repercussions if she speaks out. She's had to respond to aggressive behavior, suspected overdoses, and threats.
Just profound anger, and we're there, and it's directed at us.
And these incidents are on the rise. CBC News obtained data from a number of public library systems across the country. Between 2022 and 2023, Winnipeg saw a 21% increase in the number of incidents. Vancouver, a 14% increase. And Toronto, a 71% increase. Over 2,300 incidents total, or about 45 incidents per week across Toronto libraries last year. The number of suspected overdoses in Toronto's public libraries up a staggering 529%.
I've had to call 911 before for someone I couldn't wake up.
The growing crisis isn't just in urban centers, but in small towns too. In Amherst, Nova Scotia,
we've probably called the police more in the last 2 years than we have in the previous 5.
U of T professor Siobhan Stevenson has researched this trend. She says it's a sign of the times, and that libraries are often the only free place for the most vulnerable people in our communities to go.
This is not a library problem. This is a political problem. This is a social problem.
She says governments need to spend more money on shelters, affordable housing, and food banks like this one, instead of cutting that funding.
People in the trenches and running these places are busy enough. It's time that people at other levels of public service started talking about it.
We're passionate about it. We want to protect people. And then there's a lot of stuff that we didn't expect to be in our scope. You want to help people, and they're setting us up to fail.
We reached out to the City of Toronto. It funds Toronto's libraries just like this one. In a statement, a spokesperson said that they're committed to finding ways to address the problem. They did not say whether there are plans to increase funding to local social services. Anya Zolejowski, CBC News, Toronto.
A Canadian mining company has dug up what could be the second largest diamond in the world. We have that story coming up after the break, but first, a nice look there at the bridge. A gorgeous evening with lots of sun.
It's not always easy to eat enough of what I should. Ensure has 25 vitamins and minerals and is high in protein to help build muscles. So I get nutrients to help me keep doing the things I love with the people I love. Ensure, the #1 doctor-recommended brand.
Canada has one of the best backyards in the world. Don't let allergies prevent you from breathing it all in. Get relief fast. Reactin acts fast to relieve allergy symptoms and lasts 24 hours.
You made a cow. Actually, it's a piggy bank. My inspiration to start saving.
How about a more solid way to save?
I'm listening.
BMO helps you kickstart your savings habit with a cash bonus when you open a new checking and savings account.
Cash bonus?
Plus, you'll get a high interest rate on your savings account with no monthly fees.
Wow. Anything you can't do?
Mugs.
There are
Two kinds of people. Those who add nuggets to their Wendy's meal, and those who wish they did. Get a 6-piece of crispy 100% all-white seasoned chicken nuggets for the fresh price of $3.49. Don't miss out.
Hello, how can I... Sore throat pain? Try Vicks VapoCool Drops. It's maximum strength relief with a powerful rush of Vicks Vapors. And... Woo! Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool Drops.
The Don't Pay a Cent event is back at Leon's. Pay no money down with no monthly payments and 0% interest until 2026. Plus, save 50% on select furniture and mattresses. On now.
With Old El Paso, there's so many Paso-abilities.
New Yoplait Source Protein Yogurt is protein made easy.
Dale here just realized that adulting can be an eternal struggle.
There's a latch in there somewhere, but I'm not calling my dad for help.
Absolutely not.
No, sirree.
Not today.
You would not believe how uncomfortable I can be. He's not a bad guy. It's just like when we
Why not adult the easy way with Sonnet Auto Insurance? Just go online and in minutes you're covered. And if you need help, it's at the ready.
So I won't have to call my dad for this.
Not this time, Dale.
Not this time, Dad.
Binge all of season 31 of 22 Minutes on CBC Gem right now.
Obesity and diabetes are common problems for First Nations in Canada, and diet is a key contributor. Now, the University of Manitoba is teaming up with one northern community in a smart farm project to grow healthier food. CBC's Karen Pauls has the story.
So these are broccoli sprouts. These are actually...
This sci-fi looking lab is what's known as a vertical smart farm.
We grow up to day 10, harvest, and then package, ship down to Winnipeg.
And there's no soil?
No.
Full spectrum LED lights mimic sunshine.
Just gonna water these guys, give them
Artificial intelligence controls temperature, moisture, carbon dioxide, and nutrient levels.
So they're looking at different wavelengths and different times of growth to see when is the best time to harvest them so that they will be the most nutritious.
Yes, that's correct.
Researchers have found stimulating production of specific compounds in vegetables, like potassium and manganese, makes these veggies more nutritious than grocery store produce.
Typically 2 times to 11 times higher, right? Especially the manganese was very high. Then they can consume much less, but they still same benefits.
Almost half of the adult population in this remote northern community is suffering from type 2 diabetes. Leaders say there's an average of 3 diabetes-related deaths every month. And part of the challenge is encouraging people to cook and eat these smart vegetables.
I'll be honest, the first 4 months of working here, I didn't really eat the product because I was scared of it. There's a lot of stigma that we were met with. People were like, oh, it's artificial, it's fake food.
So, food scientists developed recipes, cooked them, and brought a meal to the local shopping mall.
Would you like to try some chili with kale? You don't notice it that much. And then we just have some sage and kale cornbread muffins.
Tastes more healthy, more natural. That's what I think.
Have you ever eaten kale before?
I don't even know what that is.
Kale, first time trying that, and with everything else, it's great.
Do you think you might cook with this more often?
Yes, for sure.
The goal is to educate people on how smart veggies contribute to a healthy diet and ultimately save lives. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Opaskwayak Cree Nation, Manitoba.
It would make a heck of an engagement ring. A fist-sized diamond was recently unearthed. That's by a Canadian mining company in Botswana. It's believed to be the second largest ever dug out of a mine. It's a 2,492-carat stone, which weighs about half a kilo. The company Lucera used X-ray equipment designed to look for large, high-value diamonds. Most naturally formed diamonds are at least 1 billion years old, with some older than 3 billion years. Got to admit, that'd be heavy on the finger. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also download the CBC News app for stories that matter most to you. And don't forget to watch The National tonight at 9 on CBC News Network, 10 p.m. on the CBC News app, CBC TV, and streaming on CBC Gem and CBC Explore. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.